Do you ever find yourself stuck in a cycle of bad habits, wondering why it's so hard to break free? What if I told you that the legendary warrior Miyamoto Musashi had insights that could change the way you approach these challenges? In this video, we'll explore Musashi's timeless wisdom and discover powerful strategies to overcome those stubborn habits once and for all. Reason 1. Neural pathways. Bad habits are hard to break due to the way our brains are built. Over time, our brains build neural paths that strengthen the habit, making it easier and more routine. This makes it harder to break a habit because the more we do it, the stronger the brain links that make it possible. Famous fighter Miyamoto Musashi understood the importance of practice in getting better at anything and stressed the need for constant practice to make moves stick in our minds and bodies. To break bad habits, we must rewire our brains, creating new neural paths that support better habits. This process is called neuroplasticity and can be done at any age, but requires constant work and practice. Musashi's lessons can help us deal with this problem by emphasizing the importance of discipline and awareness. To get rid of a bad habit, we must first be fully aware of it, understanding when and why we do the behavior. By being aware of what we're doing, we can start to stop the natural reaction and go in a different direction. The next step is having the resolve to keep doing the new things. Musashi's quest for mastery was not fueled by short bursts of inspiration, but by a strict, measured way of training. In the same way, we need to be focused when trying to break a habit, even if it's hard or the process seems slow. Breaking bad habits is like making a new road through the woods. It's hard and takes a lot of work at first, but after a while, the road becomes simpler and easier to follow. Consistency is crucial, as the brain doesn't change all at once, and it takes work over time to make changes that last. Musashi's worldview also stresses the importance of having a strong mind. It's not enough to just change how you act to break a habit. You also have to get past the mental reluctance that comes with change. By building mental toughness, we can overcome initial reluctance and make lasting changes. Bad habits are hard to break because they are deeply rooted in our brains. By following Miyamoto Musashi's advice about being aware, disciplined, and consistent, we can break even the most stubborn habits and move towards a life of control and purpose. Reason 2. Triggers and cues. One of the main reasons it's hard to break bad habits is that they are triggered by people or things that remind us to do them. Habits aren't separate from their surroundings. They're often connected to feelings, situations, or places. These triggers make it hard to fight the urge when the trigger shows up because they strongly connect certain scenarios with the bad habit. Miyamoto Musashi, who was famous for paying close attention to every detail, knew how powerful environmental cues can be and how they can change behavior. Musashi stressed in his lessons how important it is to be aware of everything around you and how it affects what you do. In the same way that a fighter needs to be aware of every move and detail during battle, we need to be aware of the things that make us do our bad habits. Someone's trigger could be a certain time of day or a place, like sitting on the couch in front of the TV, if their habit is mindlessly eating when they are tired. The brain has been trained to connect the surroundings with the behavior. So if you don't figure out these causes, the habit is likely to stick. In the same way, hormonal causes like worry or anxiety can make us turn to bad habits like smoking, drinking, or putting things off as a way to deal with them. Musashi's lessons on awareness give us a way to stop these causes from working. He pushed people to be more aware and to have self-control. He told them to train their thoughts to stay steady and focused even when they are tempted or distracted. By following this rule, we can start to figure out the triggers that make us do bad things and change how we react to them. Changing the surroundings or pattern is a good way to break the link between triggers and bad habits. For instance, if worry at work makes you want to smoke, you could take a break from smoking and do some deep breathing or go for a walk instead. Making changes to your plans and being open to new situations were important to Musashi, and they can teach you a lot about breaking the cycle of bad habits. Changing old bad habits into new good ones when familiar things happen can also help weaken the old ones. Just like Musashi trained swordsmanship over and over to become more disciplined, we can practice new habits to change the way our brains work. Instead of responding with a bad habit when a trigger comes up, choose to do the new habit. Over time, the brain will start to link the trigger to the good thing that happened instead. Musashi's lessons also stress how important it is to keep your mind strong. Bad habits can feel natural because we've given in to them so many times, but Musashi thought that control over oneself began in the mind. We can start to fight the urge to fall back on bad habits by making our minds stronger and becoming aware of how powerful triggers are over us. So, cues and triggers are very important for making bad habits start and stay with you. Because Miyamoto Musashi stressed being aware, flexible, and mentally disciplined, it's possible to figure out what sets off these natural reactions and stop them. We can start to break the link between triggers and bad habits by paying more attention to our surroundings and feelings. This will give us more control over our actions in the long run. Reason 3. Rewards. The strong reward system that drives bad habits is a major reason why they are hard to break. Our brains are made to look for happiness and avoid pain, and bad habits often give us pleasure or comfort right away. Our brains release dopamine, a chemical linked to joy and reward, when we do things like smoke a cigarette, eat a sugary snack, or scroll through social media. This makes us feel good, which supports the habit. To break a bad habit, we need to rewire our brains by making new connections that lead to better benefits. Miyamoto Musashi's theory emphasizes the value of focus over getting what you want right away. He told his followers to focus on self-control, discipline, and finding a higher purpose. This idea was shown through his life, where he practiced hard, giving up comfort and ease in order to become the best. Musashi's advice can help us stop a bad habit by not giving in to the habit's instant payoff. Instead, we should learn to wait satisfaction and keep our eyes on the bigger picture. This could mean switching from the bad habit to a healthy one that gives a better and longer-lasting benefit. For example, we don't have to eat junk food just to feel good right now. Instead, we can think about the long-term benefits of being healthy and happy. Stopping a bad habit isn't enough. We also need to find a new prize that isn't related to the bad habit. Musashi's teachings show us that real control comes from inside. We can break bad habits by teaching ourselves to look for bigger and more important benefits. It won't be easy, but we can resist the urge for instant satisfaction if we are disciplined, aware, and focused on the long run. Bad habits are a big reason why they stick around. It's hard to break these habits because our brains naturally want to feel good right away. However, Miyamoto Musashi's lessons can help us learn to wait for better things and focus on those instead. By switching from bad habits to healthy ones that give us deeper joy, we can break the circle and achieve the self-mastery that Musashi so deeply valued. Reason 4. Habitual loops. Habitual loops are patterns of behavior that repeat themselves, often starting with a trigger and leading to a payoff or comfort that reinforces the behavior. To break these loops, it is crucial to understand how they work and be flexible in dealing with different scenarios without getting stuck in routines. Miyamoto Musashi's lessons emphasize the importance of breaking out of bad habits by being aware of the triggers that set off our habits and choosing a different path that aligns with our morals and long-term goals. Habitual loops can be caused by simple cues like worry, boredom, or peer pressure. To break the loop, we must first figure out what sets it off and decide how to react differently. Being aware of the triggers can help us change unconscious reactions that cause bad things to happen, and we don't have to respond without thinking. By choosing a different road that fits with our morals and long-term goals, we can better understand and break bad habits. The reward system is another part of habitual loops, as it can be difficult to give up bad habits as they often make us feel good immediately. Musashi's theory suggests focusing on long-term growth instead of short-term pleasure and choosing long-term happiness over short-term pleasure when breaking bad habits. To break the regular loop, We need to switch from a bad behavior to a positive one through hard work and practice. We should keep doing new things to get better at them, such as deep breathing exercises or walking instead of smoking. The loop is broken when the new action becomes the usual answer over time. Musashi also emphasizes the importance of being strong, as habitual loops are very strong and take time to break out of. His life showed how to keep going even when things get hard, and his belief in always getting better tells us that we can always start over and work toward success. Breaking out of habitual loops requires mental and emotional power, awareness of patterns that hold us back, choosing new reactions, and making healthy habits a regular part of our lives. By understanding and breaking the loops that hold our bad habits together, we can live a more aware and meaningful life. Reason 5. Emotional comfort. One big reason why it's so hard to break bad habits is that they often make you feel better. A lot of the bad habits we have, like overeating, smoking, using social media too much, or putting things off, help us feel better temporarily when we're stressed, anxious, bored, or feeling other bad emotions. These habits may help us get away from bad feelings in the short term, but they keep us dependent in the long term. This wise man named Miyamoto Musashi knew that feelings can be both strong and weak. As a fighter, he knew that letting his feelings run wild could make him lose his focus and strength. Musashi thought that in order to master oneself, one had to learn to face and control their feelings instead of turning to bad habits for short-term comfort. Trying to feel better by doing bad things gives you a false sense of security. It might make you feel better for a short time, but in the long run, it stops you from growing and mastering yourself. Fear of the unknown is at the heart of mental ease. Bad habits keep us from dealing with tough feelings, so we turn to them. Whether it's the stress of a due date, the worry of an unsure future, or the pain of the past, bad habits help us ignore or avoid these feelings. That being said, this delay is like a double-edged sword. It may help us avoid pain at the time, but it also makes the habit stronger, which makes it harder to break over time. Every time we use the habit to feel better, we increase the link between the habit and feeling better, which makes us more dependent on it. The teachings of Musashi teach us that real power comes from meeting problems head-on instead of dodging them. To master something, you have to accept struggle as a part of it. This idea was shown by Musashi's life. He purposely put himself in tough situations to try and improve his skills. As well, if we want to break bad habits, we have to face the feelings that make them happen. Getting stronger mentally is one way to break bad habits that make you feel better. Emotional resilience means being able to deal with bad feelings without running away or numbing them. We don't have to use a bad habit to feel better. We can learn to accept our feelings and find better ways to deal with them. Musashi taught us that we should train our mental toughness the same way we train our physical strength, by practicing, not giving up, and being patient. For instance, we don't have to eat to feel better after a busy day. Instead, we can learn to deal with our stress through awareness techniques, exercise, or talking to a friend. We don't have to spend hours looking through social media to avoid being bored or lonely. Instead, we can do things that make us feel good, like reading, writing in a journal, or being creative. Musashi's way of life tells us to be strong when things get hard, and to use hardship as a way to grow instead of trying to avoid it. To break bad habits that come from wanting to feel good, we need to change the way we think about being uncomfortable. You don't have to fear or avoid tough feelings. Instead, you can see them as chances to grow as a person. In the same way that a fencer has to face his fears in battle, we have to face our feelings in order to break bad habits. Musashi shows us that success is not about being comfortable, but about being ready to face and get through problems. So, one big reason why it's so hard to break bad habits is that they make you feel good. They give you a short-term way to escape bad feelings, which leads to a loop of avoiding them and becoming dependent on them. The lessons of Miyamoto Musashi help us face our feelings, become stronger, and find better ways to deal with pain. By adopting this way of thinking, we can start to break free from bad habits that make us feel better and move toward a life of real power and self-mastery. Reason 6. Lack of awareness. Bad habits are often hard to break due to their lack of awareness. These habits can be formed from unconscious actions or actions that we do without thinking, such as eating lazily when bored, scrolling through social media when stressed, or biting our nails when nervous. To break free from these habits, it is crucial to be mindful and aware of oneself. Musashi's philosophy emphasizes the importance of living with a higher level of awareness and paying close attention to everything we do and think. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or writing in a book, can help us see patterns in our actions and identify causes that contribute to bad habits. By making ourselves aware of these causes, we can make better choices about how to change them. Musashi also emphasizes the importance of constantly thinking about ourselves and evaluating our actions for growth. This is particularly true for changing bad habits. Regularly thinking about our habits and asking ourselves questions like, "Why did I do this habit today?" or "What made me do this over and over again?" helps us understand why we do the things we do, which makes it easier to change them. Being aware doesn't just mean being aware of when we do something bad. It also means being aware of the feelings and thoughts that come before it. Many bad habits occur when we are in pain, such as boredom, stress, or anxiety. By understanding that our actions are caused by feelings, we can deal with those emotions directly instead of forming bad habits. Being aware also allows us to be proactive instead of reacting. By being aware of a habit before it becomes routine, we can take charge of it and change it with better actions. This proactive thinking comes from Musashi's value of self-discipline and gives us the power to change our habits on purpose. So bad habits are often hard to break because people aren't aware of them. Miyamoto Musashi's lessons on control, self-reflection, and attention can help individuals become more aware and take control of their habits. By paying more attention to and living in the present moment, we can gain more control over our lives and break free from the cycle of bad habits. Reason 7. Consistency. The long-term effort required to change bad habits is a challenging task, as desire can fade over time, and it's easy to return to old habits. Consistency is crucial in breaking bad habits, as it requires consistent effort over time. Miyamoto Musashi is an example of how to be consistent in his pursuit of becoming one of Japan's best swordsmen. He trained every day, sometimes for hours, to improve his skills and win duels against strong opponents. Rewiring the brain is not easy, as we have deeply ingrained bad habits in our brain paths. To break them, we need to form new habits, which takes time and effort. Focus is more important than desire, as motivation is short-lived. Discipline, on the other hand, becomes stronger with regular use, making it possible to do what needs to be done, even if we don't want to. To stay consistent, break the process of change into smaller steps that are easier to handle. Focusing on small wins every day when trying to break a bad habit adds up to big changes over time. Adherence is another important part of being consistent, as Musashi had a clear goal of becoming the best fighter. To reach that goal, he was very strict with himself. It's okay to mess up or go back to old habits occasionally, but the important thing is to get back on track and keep going. Musashi's worldview emphasizes that failures are normal on the way to success, but what makes us unique is our ability to keep going. Try even when things get hard, and stay committed to growth. Ultimately, stability is the key to making changes that last. Focus and constant action are what get us to the finish line. And by using this idea to break bad habits, we can create a life that fits with our best values and goals.